and this is the Age Group Multisport Podcast with me, Richard Conway. This is a platform for age group multisport athletes to showcase their journeys. Welcome along to another episode of the Age Group Multisport Podcast. If you're new to the podcast, well, we like to have a chat with the everyday multisport athlete. And the only criteria is that they've represented the country. And I think the beauty of the podcast is that we can relate to their stories because pretty much all of us have come from where they've come from, starting with their first multisport event, be it triathlon, duathlon, aquabike or aquathlon. You know, we've all been there. We've all been a rookie taking part in our first ever event. And not only is it nice to chat to these wonderful people, but we also come away learning a thing or two. And they inspire us and share hints and tips and basically how they train and get to where they've got. So coming up is episode 80, and on this episode we're speaking to Andy Tucker, and Andy got in touch and sent me an email. And Andy is an age grouper, as expected, but he's also a Guinness World Record holder. And we chat about that, and also his partner's into multisport as well, and she's an age grouper. So it's interesting to hear the dynamics of the relationship and how that goes. We also chat about the recent Ironman Hamburg where Andy was racing and what his experience was during that sad race. And we also talk time trialling because Andy's an avid time trialer and loves racing on his bike. So that's all coming up. Hope you enjoy that. Great weekend of sport just gone. We had the World Triathlon Championship up at Sunderland, which was also a British Championship and an age group qualifier in the standard distance. The first time it's been held up there in Sunderland, the sea didn't look ever so inviting. It was quite cold, 12 to 14 degrees, I believe. A lot of them were wearing thermal caps under the swim caps, so that tells you how cold it was. But other than that, technical bike course and quite a twisty run. But it was entertaining to watch on the TV, that's for sure. Really enjoyed it. And the French took a clean sweep. And they took first and second, with Pierre Lecour taking the gold. It was his first win at the age of 33. He beat Leo Berger in a sprint. And third was New Zealand's Hayden Wilde, who just, I think he was suffering from flu. And he finished up third. In the ladies, it was another French 1-2 with Cassandra Beaugrand winning. And then Emma Lombardi came in second. And it was the German Annika Koch who came in third. And in the relay, the French won again. Despite having a 10-second penalty, Cassandra Beaugrand brought it home for the French. And it was a clean sweep for the weekend. So they're absolutely on fire at the moment. And the British team, a British young team, it's got to be said, they got the silver medal. It was a fantastic team effort from start to finish. The only seasoned athlete really that they had in the team was Beth Potter, who didn't do the main event the day before, but she did come down or actually go up from Leeds to race in the relay. And she was joined by Barclay Izzard, who got them going, and give over to Beth, who kept it going as well. And then it was on to Max Stapley, who had a great bike and a fantastic swim, it's got to be said. Just faded slightly on the run, but still kept the side in medal contention. And then it was down to a new debutante to bring it home, and what a job she did. Jess Fulger was brought in last minute due to illness, and she didn't disappoint. What a race she put together. Just to compliment all the others that had gone before. And she brought home a silver medal behind Cassandra Beaugrand. She had a great swim, fantastic bike, took the bike to them, tried to gap, because she knew, I suppose, how good Cassandra was, and then ended up with a silver medal for the team. So fantastic racing, really exciting, and just shows we've got some strength and depth going forward for the mixed relay. So that was all really cool. And then there was the ladies' Tour de France finishing off on Sunday, and it was a time trial in Pau, and that was just so cool to watch. These ladies giving it full beam. It'd been really good racing all week, and the victor in the end was Dutch superstar Demi Vollering, and behind her was a teammate, Belgian Lotte Kopecky, and it was a Polish who got the polka dot jersey. I'm not even going to try and pronounce her name, but it was really cool racing. Really enjoyed it, and I hope they can continue and build that race, because I really do think it'll spur on a lot of younger female cyclists and just grow the sport, which is what it needs. In fact, what it really needs is a Netflix series like the men's has had, and that would just blow it out of the water, I think. So that was some really good viewing. Really enjoyed that. So I'd just like to give a shout out to some previous guests who were up there in the northeast in Sunderland racing this weekend, and they included Brian Stokes, who was on episode 67, Andy Biggs, who was on episode 25, Donald Brooks, who was on episode 61. He got gold in his age group and overall win, British champion. Sarah Nicola Harding, who was on episode 6, she also got gold. And Yanni Christodoulou, who was on episode 9, he got a bronze. So congratulations, guys. Great racing. And a couple of podcast recommendations. First one's the Insider Tri Show, and they were featuring Tom Bishop, who was part of the GB squad in the World Triathlon series, and he's moved over to longer course. He's doing 70.3s mainly, and it's just, finding out what's making him happy and his background and how he's dealing with the swap and the change. So that's a pretty cool podcast. And then I listened to the Simon Ward High Performance Human Triathlon podcast, and he had Dr. John Hellemans on, who's a sports medicine doctor and a triathlon coach, and he's based in Christchurch, New Zealand, and he's coached all sorts of different triathletes, as well as becoming a Masters world champion himself 8 times, no less, between 1994 and 2012. And he was also an elite triathlete representative for New Zealand in the Commonwealth Games in 1990. And they discuss lots of different topics, as usual with this podcast, from training methodologies, strength training, heart health, coaching philosophies, and how his approach to training has changed in the later years of his life. So yeah, really worth listening to. Such a knowledgeable guy. So yeah, have a listen to that. And that's about it for now. Hope you enjoyed this podcast with Andy, and we'll see you on the other side.
Hi, Rich.
Good evening. Are you all right?
Yeah, not bad, I think.
Well, thank you ever so much for doing this and agreeing to come on and sharing your story on AMP. Much appreciated.
It's not a problem.
Whereabouts are you in the world?
So I live in Fatcham in Berkshire, which is halfway between London and Bristol.
Right.
So yeah, it's right in the south. I originate from Newbury, which is 4 miles down the road.
Right.
Don't really move around a lot. So how long have you been doing this?
What, the podcast?
Yeah.
I started in lockdown.
Okay.
I just come up with the idea, and because there's like loads and loads of things for coaches and for pro athletes, and loads of training stuff. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to get the background of like the everyman, just to share their stories and inspire with people that other people can relate to, because you can never relate to like the elite, because it's the job, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, I'm totally with you there. My hero, if you like, and the guy I look up to is Christian Blumenfeld,
Right.
because he has a similar body type. I mean, I'm quite a big lad. I'm 95 kilos, sometimes over 100 in the winter. Just got to stop eating those Christmas puddings. But I very rarely go below 90 kilos, so I'm a
Yeah.
bigger guy racing. And then, yeah, I mean, I followed Christian even before he was 20, when he was still a junior. So
Yeah.
and he's always been a big barrel chested guy. So yeah, you look at him and you kind of aspire to be someone like him. But I found your podcast purely, I think it was just by accident. I was on
Yeah.
Twitter one day and I saw you talking about something, and then I went and listened to a few. I haven't listened to all of them, but certainly since, I'm going to say about episode 50-ish, maybe even
Yeah.
45.
Yeah.
So I should probably
Yeah.
go back and listen. But
Yeah.
it is really interesting. It's really good, and
Yeah.
you can totally relate to everything.
Yeah. I think although the
To the state.
stories are, I think although the stories are different,
Mm.
different people and different walks of life and different age groups and sexes and stuff, there's still a common theme, isn't there? We
Yeah.
all struggle and we all go through the same, and pretty much we all find triathlon a similar sort of way. I found over the 80 episodes that I've done,
Hmm.
you being the 80th. Yeah, so it was just, I didn't know. I'd never done a podcast, never done anything in social media, like, and I just thought, yeah, I had the idea. I run it past my son, who's a graphic designer and he's into his computers, and he said, yeah, I think it's a good idea. So little by little, we've just we've just progressed, and I just love doing it. I don't. It's not a financial thing at all. I'm sat up here in our spare bedroom, just me on my own, and I just worked out how to do it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
speaking to guys like you, it's inspiring for me as well. You know what I mean? Listening to all the stories and the journeys, and now when I go to races, it's so nice because I know so many people that have
Yeah.
been on.
Yeah.
It's just like really, really cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how I
No,
started.
that's good. It's good. So
Yeah.
I'm Andy and Andy Tucker. I'm in the male age group of 50 to 54, or the open age group now, as it's called, because we have
Yeah.
to be diverse. Um, I live in Newbury, down in the south of England. No, I don't live in Newbury. I come from Newbury. I live in Thatcham, down in the south of England. I've been doing triathlon since 2012, and that's a little story in itself. But as a kid, oh, so my mum and dad never owned a car, and the only vehicle we had in the family was dad. Dad was on a bike, so we had to go everywhere on a train or a bus, or we walked, or we rode a bike. So I was never your archetypal kind of go to football every Saturday type kid, but I hated being indoors, and I was always out playing with the kids in the streets. I was always out on my bike, so I was one of these kids that used to go out at 8 o'clock on a morning, on a weekend, and then you'd never see me until it got dark, because that was the only instruction you had. So in the summer, you could have been out for 13, 14 hours,
Yeah.
couple of quid in my pocket, or we used to go out to mate's house, and you always knew where your mates were by the number of bikes outside their house. So that's where you kind of eat. So I guess I was always on my bike, or playing football with mates or whatever. So but I never really played in the football team as such, or did any team sports, but I was always sporty, if you like. So there's never
Yeah.
any team structure or anything. But we used to have a paper round, and obviously on a Saturday or Sunday, finish our paper round, and then we'd stash the paper bag somewhere, and then we go and ride a route and see who could ride the fastest, or even play a bit of hare and hound. So I'd give my mate 2 minutes and then see if I could catch him up, or he'd give me 2 minutes, and he never gave me 2 minutes. It was always, oh look, you've already caught me up already. So as a kid, there was never really sport as such. And then I got my driving license, and things took a took a bit of a turn south. Ended up putting on weight. started drinking kind of too much, going down the pub and whatever, and abused my body in my 20s, and became quite large, fat actually, to the point of I was nearly 20 stone at one point.
Wow.
I suppose we can kind of gloss over my mid 20s to early 30s, or certainly late 20s, and then my son came along when I was 34, still in a bit of a bit lazy type, not really doing much, overweight. And then he was 3, and I distinctly remember this was that pivotal moment that everybody remembers. He was being a bit of a sausage in the local park, and I tried to run after him to catch him, to kind of discipline him or berate him or something, and I couldn't catch him. I actually could not catch him. So I was wheezing and falling and just couldn't catch him. Sat down, lit up a cigarette, and then had this moment of, what am I doing? What actually am I doing? I am 37 years old, smoking, overweight, asthmatic. This is wrong. You've got to do something to stop this, or you're not going to be there for to see his 10th birthday. So yeah, from I guess 2008 that was, 2008. And then sort of I tried to stop smoking, tried to live a bit more healthy, but it was a bit of stop-start for a couple of years. But at least that initial thought was there. It was always kind of, right, I've got to do something about this. And I suppose 2010 is when I thought, I loved riding my bike when I was a kid, so I bought another bike. I went to Halfords because I didn't even know where to go. And I just bought one of their Carrera bikes. It was black and yellow. Yeah, it was. I can't remember what it was called. Can't remember. But all I remember actually was it was a Carrera TDF, but it was like something. But it had TDF, so it's Tour de France, and obviously I knew the Tour de France and kind of been watching it on and off. And yeah, so from 2010 really was when I bought a bike, and then I discovered that triathlon was actually a little bit more accessible to you than just being an elite sportsman. One thing I did notice actually was, do you remember Trans World Sport on Channel 4? That's where I came across long distance triathlon in Ironman, and you see these crazy people, and you're like, how do they do that in one day? How do they do that in one day? That would take me. Well, I'd never finish it. It would be just a week, if you like.
Yeah.
I was aware of triathlon, but I always thought that it was for these super high fit kind of elite athletes that needed to be lean and skinny rakes and everything. But so 2010 I was aware of triathlon.
And I guess back then, Andy, other than Eurosport, it just wasn't a thing, was it? It wasn't, especially not over in the UK. You had to really be in a crowd or a group that was already doing it, or it just wasn't. I mean, now some people still ask you what's a triathlon, what's a duathlon, what do you do?
Yeah.
So back then, Eurosport, you're right. It was just like, wow, that's crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah. I just I wasn't aware of any of the age group racing. I mean, even for a few years, and I wasn't aware of age group racing at all. I just thought it was just elites, and that these people, I don't know, got almost paid to do it. But also 2012 was when, social media started coming around 2010, I guess. I think.
Yeah.
And the explosion kind of happened around that time. So I guess, the algorithms of social media is you start typing in triathlon into Google, and all of a sudden everything comes up on your timeline. So you become more and more aware of it really, really quickly.
Yeah.
2012 was the year that I decided to do a triathlon. There was a company that was aimed at pure beginners, and it was a sprint triathlon. It was a 400-meter pool swim, 20k bike and a 5k run. It turned out to be slightly too short on the run, and the bike was slightly too long. But I didn't know about these things.
Well, even now at some races, they're still the same. It depends on what they can do with the course. We did one up at Woodhorn. It was a qualifier for, I think it was a European qualifier last weekend. Myself, my wife, and a friend, we did the relay because I'm crock at the minute. But even that was like a 6k run at the end, and the bike was 24k, and you know what I mean. So even now, they've dealt the hand that they've got, with the courses that they're on. So it's
of course,
it hasn't changed, really, has it?
No, and I don't think that. And then you see some people claiming a PB at this course, and then you discover that the bike course was 3k short and the run course was maybe 500 meters short, and you think maybe. But anyway, it's everyone races the same. Everyone races the same. Yeah, I heard you're not very well. Is it run injuries? You're
Achilles. Yeah, I've had an Achilles issue. Last race I did was April. I think we were up at Darley Moor trying to qualify for the duathlon, and it went again then. So I've just not run on it, and I've never had it before, and it's just one of those horrible things that it's going to take a long time. So yeah, but at least with the sport we can still swim and bike, so that's all right.
So I guess I started off at around 2010 with running. Because it was easy to go and buy a pair of trainers. But I bought my pair of trainers from the local shoe shop. Yeah. I didn't know about running trainers. And then sure enough, you kind of get injured and you always run too much and you always run too fast. That's for sure. And you get out of breath between lampposts and you think this is absolutely terrible. But I did used to swim a lot as a kid, and I was half decent in a pool. But I never, I didn't swim for years. And then the first time I got back in the pool, it's the same story. But you hear it all over, the same story. Yeah, couldn't even do 2 lengths without getting out of breath. Whereas now,
well, then what do you expect, really? You know what I mean? It's like after any period of time, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing anything. If your body's not accustomed to it, it's going to be the same, isn't it? And we're always the same, aren't we? We're always, oh God, my time's really bad. Well, yeah, because you've had no consistency and you've not been doing it for 6 months, or in your case, forever. So it's like, but we do, don't we? We like, oh God, what's happened?
I know. Yeah, swimming. I don't know about you, but if I'm not in the pool regularly, my swim goes absolutely out of the water. Excuse the pun. It just dies, and it takes a good couple of swims to get back. But I quite enjoy swimming. I think I detest running more than everything else, but being a heavier guy, trying to run fast at 93 kilos is always going to be hard. And I'm never going to set the world on fire, but it's a work in progress.
Absolutely. So what was the progress then from you decided that you're going to enter? Had you been run training and swim training before that? Or were you just on the bike? Or was it that you'd seen this triathlon, thought, right, I'm going to train for that?
Yeah, basically, I thought, okay, I'm going to train for that. And resources back then were quite limited. So I didn't really know where to go, didn't really know what to do. But I thought, okay, let's train to swim 400 meters. So you go and swim 400 meters, nothing else. Okay, let's ride the bike as fast as we can for 20k. How many miles is that? That's 12 miles, or you worked it out. So let's go and see how fast I can ride that, and then let's go and see how fast you can run 5k. Luckily, around that time, I started going to parkrun. You've heard of parkrun.
Yeah.
So parkrun every Saturday. I'd go along. I think I started the December previously, so I used to go along and run 5k as hard as I possibly could, because I thought that was the way, and then that's how you trained and got better. And then running training, I think I was training about 3 days a week then, or even 4 days a week. I used to ride the bike twice. So all I would do was swim 400 meters, no warm up, just go and swim 400 meters. And then go and ride my bike for 20k, and then twice a week, and then park run on a Saturday, and then and then I thought I was ready for the ready for the triathlon. It actually went okay. It kind of went better than I ever expected. I mean, God, it was blimmin' hard because you try and put all the three together. Oh, yes, I know what I did. 2 weeks before, I decided to do my own triathlon of 400 meters, 20K, and 5K. So I went to the local pool, swam 400 meters, rode my bike there, and did 20K, and then ran off the bike, and and then spent the rest of the day on the sofa. It was just exhausting. And then the triathlon came round, and it was brilliant. Absolutely, well, I say brilliant. It was horrendous. And then spent the rest of the day on the sofa, but I was hooked, absolutely instantly hooked, because I turned up with this black and yellow bike had clearly the wrong gears. It was an 8-speed 5339 with an 1125 on the back, just 8-speed. But at least it had SIS, it was shifters, so it wasn't down tube shifters or anything. So at least it was indexed. And it was absolutely brilliant. Met some amazing people, talked to people, but saw all these bikes, and I'm like, oh my God, there must be pros here. What am I doing here? But obviously now I'm one of those people with this fancy bike.
How things change.
I know, they really do. So that was my introduction to multisport.
So how did it progress then? What did you join a club, or did you get a coach or anything, or did you look into it more and find out actually how you should be training?
So I found various people through parkrun and was asking. I'm a bit of a sponge. I'll ask question after question after question, and I really want to know about how things work, about training. And then at that time, I became more aware of resources and read, and then I found 220 Triathlon, the magazine. So I got a subscription to that. There was also Running World that you used to get a magazine, so I used to read that. I spent a fortune on magazine subscriptions, but also talking to people. I didn't really join a club because I thought they were too elite, and I was nowhere near good enough to be in them. But I, through parkrun you meet some pretty cool people, and we used to go running in running groups, and then there was other people that they'll go, I've got a bike, let's go out for bike rides and things. So and then I became friends with a lot of much better cyclists. So I ended up getting spat out the back a lot on group rides, and then you just try to hang on as much as you possibly can. So, but you just get stronger and stronger and stronger, and it happened with running as well. Oddly, I found people we didn't really swim very much together. Weirdly, sorry, my other half's just come home. She's about to walk past. Swimming was, and that's my cat. Anyway, sorry.
Right.
Life, right?
Absolutely. I love it.
Well, so it was a balancing. It's just you try and balance it. It was. So I just gleaned a lot of information from magazines and from people really, and then discovered that you needed to, warm up, do a main set, and then cool down again, rather than just go and smash out of this ride of a certain distance. And I just got better and better and better. And then I also discovered time trialing. Right. And I'm going to talk a lot about time trialing because so many triathletes own these really, really fancy bikes, and they never see the light of day apart from 1 or 2 races a year, and they never ride them on the road in time trials. And I'm going to say now, and I'm going to blow my own trumpet, and I do it very often, I'm a pretty decent time trialer.
Cool.
So my strongest discipline is the bike, but that's because I time trial, and when you're in the aero position for a fixed distance, 10, 25, 50, 100, 12 hour, you learn to make decisions when you're exhausted, when you're short of breath or lack of oxygen, and you become a better cyclist in your time trial bike, for basically for free. it's free speed. So yeah, I discovered time trialing around this time, and this same yellow and black bike, I ended up putting aero bars on it for speed, because I understood that, you know, if you get down in the aero position, you just become faster, and then invariably you end up running off the bike at the end of a time trial. So you just killed yourself for 10 miles, and then you put on a pair of trainers, and then you go running, and these pure time trialists think you're absolutely insane. So yeah, it's yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
And I did, so after my first sprint try, I entered an Olympic distance. I actually followed the normal progression path, if you like, from a sprint distance to an Olympic distance, the middle distance, and then I eventually broke my long distance in 2019. So
right.
It took me 7 years to go long.
Yeah,
or
well,
longer.
Some of us have never done that, so, and don't really intend to.
It's a weird distance, and because I'm a bigger guy, and I talk about this a lot as well. I can't run really fast, but I can run forever at a semi-decent pace. So, you know,
and I think it's I was just going to say, I think it's about playing to your strengths, isn't it?
Of course, absolutely is. Yeah. You
know, we've got what we've got. You know, we're all physically different. We've got what we've got, and we've got to work it out. I think that's one of the keys. It's working it out and actually what works for you. And if that's longer distances, that's fine. Doesn't work for me. Shorter distances, that's fine. Don't get pressured or into doing something that, and I never have, that you're actually not comfortable with doing. You know.
Yeah. It's also training for Ironman takes an enormous amount out of you, not only from your own personal life as well, but from your body. It's to do it. I think anybody could do an Ironman with a reasonable distance, because the cut-offs are quite generous. But if you want, but it also depends on what you want from an Ironman. You know, whether you want to be competitive or you just want to tick it off as I've done an Ironman. That was what I wanted to do originally. But now I've sort of realised that I'm mildly competitive, if you like. I'm sort of in the top 10-ish of an age group, depending on who's there, really. But there's some fast 50 to 54-year-old dudes. Oh my god, it's horrendous.
I say this nearly every episode now, depending on who I'm speaking to. I think it's probably from 40 up to 65 to 70. They are incredible in nearly most of the disciplines, you know, and the numbers that are trying to qualify in those disciplines is just outrageous, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's just going to continue.
And brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because you know, I work for the NHS, so I see the good side of things and also the bad side of things. So I see people who really have no motivation or even interest in even looking after themselves, but I also see people who absolutely look after themselves and look amazing. You know, I mean, you're
55,
okay, and you don't look 55 at all.
Thank you very much.
You know, because but we live in a world where we think that's normal. But I look at old school friends and think, wow, I went to school with you, and you look 5-10 years older than me. So it's and I also want to see, you know, my son grow up into be to be all he can and everything, and I don't want to, you know.
I think the other thing is, when you've got kids, I mean, mine are grown up now. I've got 26 and a 28-year-old. They see you as a role model, despite whether it happens at the time or whatever as they're growing up. But I can guarantee you that they do see you as a role model, and they see what you're doing. And eventually, it might take years, but eventually it'll rub off on them, and they will start being active and doing stuff because dad does it and mum does it. And I think it's the right thing to do. You know, it might be like, you know, they might be not find anything till they're in the late 20s, but all of a sudden it'll click and they'll
Yeah.
realise.
Well, I guess I was lucky because I was cycling. As I say, I started from 2010 when my lad was 5. And then in 2012, I think I took him along to his first cyclocross race.
Yeah.
So he was 7, and he was in this really, really heavy, horrendously, heavy, cheap mountain bike, and he competed in his race, and he loved it. And then he was racing in all the way up to under 14s, and then when he became under 14s, all of a sudden, it wasn't just riding with his mates; it became a little bit too competitive, and he lost the love. So I didn't push it, and he hung up his bike, and he just sort of was like, "Oh, I don't really want to do it anymore, Dad. Plus, I'm 14, and I'm too cool for that now."
Yeah.
And he's 18 this month.
Has he not seen Van Aert and Van der Poel and Tom Pidcock then? Has he not watched cycling these days?
He sort of does, but he's obviously finding his own personality and beer. I can't really moan at him. But interestingly,
you can't.
For Father's Day, he actually texted me saying, "Do you want to go out for a bike ride?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." So we went to the local forest, Swinley. There's like a little bike park with some trails and everything. We got on our mountain bikes and we just had an absolute amazing day. And I thought his fitness was going to be terrible, but it really wasn't. And he can still ride a bike, and he's still got skills to ride a bike. So I'm thinking maybe he'll pick it up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well,
mid-20s.
It's one of those, isn't it? If he does, he does, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. My son, he's into his football, the youngest one, but he did do triathlon because he done football all his life from he was 6 till he was 18, and then he did some triathlon, and then he went to university and he did sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and then he's come back and he's gone back to football, training, and he's playing for a Sunday league team. But he come home the other month. And he brought his bike over, and the three of us, myself and my wife, we all went out on the bike, and it was quite nice actually. We went up some of the hills, and he was struggling because when he was really fit, you couldn't keep up with him. So yeah, I just love it. It's just fantastic that you are a role model, and it does rub off even when you don't really mean to be, and it's not, you just do it because you like to do it, and it's not intentional. But you're right, they'll find their own way, and he'll do what he wants to do, which is quite right. Yeah.
And I'm still proud of him, and like why wouldn't I be? As much as the pain in the backside, I still love him. But kids do that, right?
That never stops.
No. Well, I know what I was like at his age. My mum and dad used to be like, "Oh God, you at that age, just There's
always issues, just different issues.
Yeah, exactly.
So getting back to your story then. You sort of blasted through. You did your Olympic and you did your middle distance, and then finally your Ironman. Was that 2019? You said. Yeah,
that was.
Where was that one then?
How was it?
Where was it?
Oh, that was in Vichy in France, or Vichy in France. So my partner is also an age group triathlete as well. I should probably put you in contact actually with her.
You should indeed, definitely.
I'll pass on her details then.
That would be great.
So we went with a load of friends, and the nice thing about triathlon as well is you can go on a bit of a holiday, and although you call it a holiday, but people don't think it's a holiday, but for us it's a holiday because it's a destination, right? So there was, how many there was there? There was 1, 2. So there's 3 of us that did the Ironman, and then 5 that did the 70.3, because there was a 70.3 on the Saturday and then the full Ironman on the Sunday, and that's why we went,
right?
Because we could make a whole sort of holiday out of it.
Yeah.
And we entered Vichy originally because it was quite a flat course, and then 6 months before they changed the course to an incredibly hilly course, and everybody was like, "Oh my god!" And there was some of the 70.3 crew were actually contemplating not doing it. Anyway, we all got there, and we all got down there, and it was good watching on the Saturday. Try not to exhaust yourself by watching all the rest of your friends, and and cheering on your mates and trying to stay out of the sun and doing all the usual things that you're supposed to do pre-race day.
Yeah.
But it was just good fun. And then it was there was 3 of us in that did the Ironman in Vichy. So 93 kilos should not go up a hill very fast. But it's but on a bike I can ride a bike. But I can also descend really well as well. So and obviously gravity helps. So I ended up going 11:48 for my first Ironman with 6,500 feet of climbing or something like that for the bike course. So it was tough, and it was also 36 degrees that day as well. Wow. It was absolutely horrendous, but it was an experience, and I just went there to finish and just to see what happens. So that was in 2019, and then we all know, and then 2020 we were supposed to go to Italy, but we all know what happened in 2020.
It just stopped, and everything just stopped.
Yeah.
So by that time, when you were going through the different distances, were you still self-coached, and you're just doing it on your own, and still the same group of mates and things? No club or anything?
Yeah, pretty much. I used to know there's a guy called Mark Shepherd. You might know him.
Yeah, I know Mark. He's been on the podcast.
Yeah. So he was giving me some advice, which was good. So it wasn't an official coach; it was just a bit of advice. But it was all self-coached. Oh no, hang on a minute. I tell a lie. I do apologise. I picked up. So Teresa, my partner, she picked up our current coach, which is we've had since. Well, she's had since. When did you get Callum? 2018, 2017. Yeah. So she picked up with Callum Hughes in 2017, and then I joined in 2018 because I thought, I need. So although I thought I knew how to train for an Ironman, I really didn't. It was, you just sort of think, I swim a bit longer, I ride a bit longer, and I run a bit longer. But I ended up coming on with Callum in 2018. So I only picked up an official coach then, and we've been with him ever since. So he's good. He's patient, really, really patient. And he's a decent triathlete himself. He used to be he was a pro for a year as well. So he sort of lived that semi-pro lifestyle, if you like. He went to a few pro races. I think he earned a few quid, but he obviously had a new family to take care of as well. So it was he couldn't do as much as he wanted to, I suppose. But no, he's decent. It was 2018 when I finally took the plunge and got a coach. And I have to say it's money well spent, really, really well spent, because if you don't understand something or understand why he's put a particular session in, or you need to move things around, he's really receptive to it. Because life gets in the way. You know this. If he'll put in a ride some days of 2 hours on a Friday, and it's just the worst day of the week to put a ride of 2 hours in, and you go, look, I can't do it. And he goes, yep, no problem. And then he'll adjust the plan for the weekend necessary. So instead of a 3-hour ride, it becomes a 4-hour ride. And then maybe an hour and a half run off the bike, or you incorporate park run into your long run on a weekend, that sort of thing. So he's adaptable, and he's always, and he's not afraid to try new things as well. He's so he'll look at the latest things that science say works, and it works, and I've seen my training change quite a lot in the 5 years I've been with him now. So yeah.
It's good. So what's your preferred distance now then? Are you still sticking at Ironman, or? So I kind of have to say this. So my last one was Hamburg this year, but we all know what happened. So I was there at Hamburg when that incident happened. Yeah, that was absolutely horrific.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about that? Because I've got some.
You can talk. Yeah. I mean, I actually was watching it live in bed when it came up and happened, and it was like,
Okay, so I didn't want to watch that live footage because obviously we heard and I came across what happened, but I eventually saw it, and I still don't understand why the motorbike was where he was. Still don't understand that. I still don't know why he was there, because in the briefing we were absolutely told, do not cross that line, stay on the right, and he was right over where we were. So I did that race last year when Laura Philipp won in that incredible time, but I got injured on the run. Anyway, I took a gamble because I knew I was swimming pretty decent and I was biking pretty decent, and I got in the swim really, really early. Big mistake, by the way, because those age group dudes can swim ridiculously fast, and I overestimated my swim time. Anyway, so what I'm saying is last year I was at about the same place where the incident happened at about the same time. And you can't talk about, you can't think too much about things like that. But this year I was a bit further back because I got in the swim a bit late. But we came across it after about 10 to 15 minutes after it had happened. The road, everybody talks about that road being narrow. It's not that narrow because it's definitely a two-lane road. I mean, obviously it's not like a major A trunk road, if you like, but you can certainly fit two cars comfortably going either way. But when you put all the motos on there that were with the pros and seeing that it's just, I don't know. Anyway, we came across it, had no idea what had happened, but I was racing with a mate who was up the road because he got in the swim before us and he was up the road, and I looked down thinking, please don't let it be Nick, please don't let it be Nick. And it wasn't. I saw a dude getting chest compressions and I'm like, yeah, I don't need to see any more, because we got put up on a bank on a
I saw it. I saw it.
So we had to walk around it. And people were like, oh my God, what the hell? And then we got back on after about 150 meters, got back on the bike and I'm riding and I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to continue this. But then I thought, but we don't know the full facts. We don't know what's happened. Because nobody said to us, by the way, someone's passing away here. It's really bad. But we just didn't have the full facts. So I spent a good 20 minutes not really knowing what I wanted to do. I was still riding my bike, but I didn't know what to do. And then I kind of figured, look, I'm here to race. I'm here to ride my bike. And I'm here to do a triathlon. We don't know what's happening, so let's just crack on. So I kind of cracked on, and then we got diverted around it, coming back the other way because it was on an out and back section, back into town, and then back out for the second loop, and then came across it again. Got off. By that time, everything had gone, but we had to go round the incident because it was an investigation now, and then out and back, and then we got diverted back around it, and then back into town, and then back on the run. People say they should have stopped the race. I'm not convinced they should, because you have 2,000 people all over the course, and then how do you stop that?
I think I was listening to the Triathlon Hour, and he had the CEO on. Did you listen to that one?
Which time? Because I've heard both.
Well, he was on this week because he's resigned, hasn't he? He was on this week, so he'd actually come back on. And he was talking about that exact thing, Yes, your instant reaction is the race should have been stopped. Actually, what do you do with all these people? Yeah. There's no right or wrong answer, in my opinion. I just think it's just, somebody's died, for God's sake.
Yeah. It is only, But then if you read social media, a lot of people pass away in the swim. But they never stop the race there.
Well, one, they're usually not on the TV.
Yeah.
And two, it's usually a heart attack or something that's happened.
Yeah.
And three, they're not hit by a motor, it's not an instant like that. I know it was the motorcycle driver that died, and how the guy hit on the bike didn't die. I have no idea. I have no idea. When they said somebody died, that was my first thought. I just, when they said it was a motorbike rider, I was like, how was that possible?
Yeah, I don't. I don't understand
But
that
yeah, I
either.
mean, like we go back to that. There's no right and wrong answer, and it's a tough one. But I do agree with him actually when he was talking about you can't stop it. There's too many people on the course. You know, you've got to carry on.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, and it was an incredibly tough decision to make. But I think he said there was them the people on the ground were the best place to make that decision. So
well, he wasn't there. He was
no,
over in America.
yeah,
Although there was claims, he said that there was claims that he was there, and
yeah, we
he wasn't
certainly
there.
didn't.
So
Yeah,
that's why he's got these teams running all these events all over the world.
yeah, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
their job to do it, isn't it? So, but
Mm.
anyway, so yeah,
But it
it's
was,
sad.
yeah,
Sad.
it was a subdued celebration, if you like. You know, yeah, I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah,
that aside,
yeah,
because that will always dominate, my best Ironman, if you like.
yeah.
But I was only there really to run properly off the bike because I've never managed to run properly off the bike on a long distance triathlon
Right.
or certainly an Ironman.
Yeah,
I've DNF'd one, but we can talk about that in a minute because I'm quite proud of why I DNF'd on that. Um, but I managed to actually run sub 4, and I know that's quite hard to run sub 4 on the back of a 112-mile hard bike when you
yeah,
get no respite on a course because you're constantly pedaling for 112 miles because
yeah,
it's flat. Flat
yeah.
courses are great and they're fast, but you're aero for 112 miles and you're pedaling all the time. So it's I'd probably go as far to say it's a harder bike ride because you don't get that freewheeling down a big mountain. So yeah. Anyway, on the back of that, obviously Nice isn't filling up, so I managed to get a World Championship slot on the back of that.
Cool. That's good.
So yeah, I'm off to Nice
Yeah,
to ride up some
excellent.
big ass mountains.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, it's quite a challenging course by all accounts.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes. So
and that
uh,
that doesn't really surprise you that it's not filling up, with it being the World Championships, does it?
no,
Considering,
yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's the first year it's split. I think everybody's waiting to see what happens, and I think next year you'll see Nice for women fill up faster because it's easier for Europeans to get to, and obviously all the fast dudes want to go back to Kona because that's where their spiritual home is. But the sport moves on, and new people are coming into the sport all the time, and they won't necessarily know about
yeah,
Kona, if you like. It will take a few years to maybe kind of because you're always going to get purists of the sport, but it's there's more triathlon out there than just Ironman as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
And I
but
think you're right about it moving on. It has moved on already because we've got the PTO, haven't we,
yeah,
which is coming all guns blazing and giving them some competition, which is it's what it needs. Typical American. I was on another podcast as a guest, and it was run by an American. And I'll just say this quickly. He said, "Oh, what do you think of Americans?" I said, "They're all right." I said, "They're quite like everywhere else, isn't it? You get some good people, you get some bad people." He said, "Well, what do the British think of Americans?" And I said, "Well, I'll just say this: in America, they're the only country that has World Series, and there's only America attends. That's all you need to say about America." So they're just so like engrossed in their own importance and being, and I think that's where, and I know it's in Hawaii, but it's still an American state, and I think that's what's pretty much, yeah, they brought the sport up and they brought the Ironman and everything else, but I think that's what's happened, isn't it? They've just took it upon themselves to make a World Championships, and that's it. That's where it should be. That's no other sport does that.
no, no, no. The only other sport that does that actually is the boat race because it's always against Oxford and Cambridge in the finals, isn't it? So
Yeah, but they don't call it the World Series boat race. They called it the
yeah,
Oxford and Cambridge.
yes, yeah,
It's a
yeah,
little
but
bit
no,
different.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, you're right, you're right. So because I ended up managed to qualify for the 2017 70.3 Worlds in Chattanooga, and we went along, and there are some of the nicest people in Tennessee
Yeah.
ever. And Chattanooga is an amazing place. And if you ever get to go because the
Cool.
food's incredible, the people are amazing, and they're just a really nice, friendly bunch of people. And it was amazing. It was an amazing atmosphere. But even that's moving around as well. You know, the 70.3 world champs moves around.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We
No.
we went to St George this year with Teresa. She fought. So Teresa, my partner, she qualified at the 2019 Vichy race. Her first 70.3, and she bags a world slot with fourth in age group. It's just great, you know. I've been doing this thing for 7 years, and she comes in and qualifies instantly. We managed to get St George last year,
Yeah,
and again an incredible place.
yeah, yeah.
But it's obviously very American, but it's just brilliant. It's a brilliant. Yeah. So I know we could talk about Ironman and everything, but obviously age group racing,
Yeah.
I'm quite new to.
So how did you find out about it and get involved in the age group scene then
Yeah.
itself?
So I was aware of age group racing from about 2013, but I wasn't aware that there was long distance age group racing until about 2017. And even then, I didn't know about the qualification process. I thought, oh, you know, you had to go along to a middle distance champs, and then you had to come top three in your age group to then represent your country. But the more I delved into it, the more I thought, oh, hang on a minute, you can qualify off the back of a number of events. And I know you have to go to qualifying events for sprint, and this is obviously duathlon and triathlon. You have to
Yeah,
go
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's up to
sprint.
Olympic distance, although I'm not sure whether they've changed it for middle distance now as well. Whether there's
Okay,
races anyway.
well, yeah, I've certainly. So I'm qualified to go to the European Aquabike Champs, and I
Yeah,
had qualified to go to the World Aquabike Champs, but I had to defer that for reasons I can talk about in a minute. But yeah, I sort of discovered that around, I guess, 2020, when obviously lockdown was happening, and I thought, oh, hang on a minute, I could wear that fabled blue suit if you like, because it looks amazing, and I've never worn that blue suit. We went to Bilbao last year because Teresa represented GB in middle distance triathlon,
yeah,
and it was brilliant, and it was amazing to see everyone there. It was just brilliant. You know, the vibe you got off the whole team, and you know, that massive team photo, and people really excited and just love wearing that blue suit. Um, so yeah, I became aware of it, and then I managed to qualify for the blue suit off the back of my 2022 Hamburg result.
right.
But for Aquabike, because
Yeah, yeah,
and again, I didn't even know about Aquabike until about 2 years ago. I didn't even know that was a thing,
yeah,
and that kind of plays to all my strengths because
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
a
yeah.
swimmer and I'm a good cyclist. So
And that's the
uh,
beauty of multi-sport, isn't it? You know what I mean?
mm,
If you can find something now that actually you can play to your strengths, like we said earlier. You know, if you're not the greatest of runner, you can do aquabike. If you're not the greatest of swimmer, you can do a duathlon. You know, it's just wonderful that there's so much out there for people to try and have a go at.
yeah, it really is. And the qualification process certainly for middle distance, I think is once you get your head round, you know, you have to finish within 120% of the winner in your age group and work that out, and you have to get around that submission process. I mean, we've had a number of mates that we've helped, you know, put in entries, and they've also managed to qualify for the
Yeah,
Europeans. So there's a few of us going,
that's good.
which will be good fun. So I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to it. So I can't give you my own personal experience from a competitor point of view, but certainly from a spectator point of view, it's incredible, absolutely incredible. Um, However, we did go to Bilbao, and it was almost like there was nothing happening until you got right down to the waterside, and then there was a big
right.
marquee, and then there was lots of people from various countries, all sort of in their team kit. But the town didn't necessarily know that it was happening, if you like. It was,
Yeah,
but with such
yeah,
a small amount of people in a large city. But yeah, I don't know. But I'm quite looking forward to Menen in Belgium for the Euros,
mm,
because that seems quite a small town, and I'm kind of guessing that there'll be a lot of people there
yeah,
cheering on and stuff. So I was supposed to go to Ibiza to do the
yeah,
World Bike Champs, and I'm a bit gutted I didn't, but we ended up doing a charity ride from Liverpool to the Ukraine border in Poland
Right.
with our friend who's got Parkinson's, because he does mental challenges every year
Yeah.
to try, because so he's a Parkinson's sufferer. He's a chairman of Parkinson's, a guy called Gary Shaughnessy. You should Google him because the guy's just nuts. But he's a good nuts, and we ended up riding 1,400 miles over 2 weeks.
Wow.
And the reason I deferred was because that was on. So my race would have been on the Saturday. They started, or we started riding from Liverpool on the Sunday, but we probably couldn't meet until Monday. And trying to put that all together was just a bit of a headache. So I actually chose to ride with friends to a border of a country that we've never been to, rather than going to the World Aquabike Champs or World Champs. So I missed the PTO European Open and all that sort of things, but I could probably do that again.
Yeah, that's the thing. Don't beat yourself up about that. It's the second time it's been to Ibiza. It'll be there again, I'm sure, because it's a great venue. I did it in 2018, and that was the first time they'd held it. But it's a really good place to go. So if you do get the chance.
I've been to Ibiza before as the party goer, but never as the athlete.
That's on the other side. So going back to your aquabike, is that, I'm not sure about the qualification process on that. So did you just have to put a percentage in for it, or did you? Is there races
So when back in 22 in Hamburg, I ended up doing a decent swim, destroyed the bike course, and then did a 6.5 hour walk because I calf injury, the standard story of a triathlete, injury, calf after calf injuries. But that was my own stupid fault. 6 weeks out, I decided to go running a cross country event with my son. Actually, he said, "Oh, should we go for a run down?" I was like, "Yeah," and then I injured myself. But anyway, that's another story.
Sounds familiar.
But on the back of that, I managed to squeak a qualification, because the percentage, I think, was 108%, so it was well inside. An aquabike was a thing, and I thought, let's just go for it. Why not? So
great, absolutely.
Managed to do that.
Fabulous.
But my other Ironman that I was talking about, I alluded to where I DNF'd. Because I emailed you that I'm a double Guinness World Record.
That. Yeah, I was going to ask about that. But go on.
Okay, so it's the same.
Tell us about the world record.
Yeah, so it's the same friend about Gary Shaughnessy. In 2019, we went to Košice Marathon, which is an amazing place. And as always, things get talked about in a pub. And Gary came up with the idea of trying to break a world record. Now, we're not world record breaking athletes by any stretch of the imagination, but someone laughingly said, "Well, how about an egg and spoon race?" And then it was like a sack race. And it's like, "Oh, how about a 3-legged race?" And we Googled 3-legged 12 and 24-hour running, and the distances weren't obscene. So we thought, let's have a crack at this. So over several pints of beer, a plan was formed to try and break the record in 2020. But we all know what happened in 2020. But we did a dress rehearsal in 2020 in October, but we had to have a mannequin tied between us. So we ran around a field for 24 hours carrying this mannequin to maintain social distancing. We managed to break the record, but it wasn't official because we were tied to a mannequin, we weren't tied to each other. So we decided to do it in 2021 at the beginning of October. And there are rules actually about how far your legs can be apart, where you can be attached. You have, if you take a break, you have to start in the same place. You have to have you have to have adjudicators, independent adjudicators. I mean, Guinness would have come along, but at a hefty premium. Which obviously takes away from the fundraising, balance, if you like. So we decided to, just try and find independent adjudicators, and they couldn't know either myself or Gary, and they had to sit there and mark down how many times we went round a 400-meter lap. And anyway, we ended up doing 71.8 kilometers for 12 hours and 117 for 24 hours, three-legged.
Wow.
And I was broken. And as I say, Gary's got Parkinson's, and I'm supposed to be this fit athlete. And at the end of it, I was laid down for half an hour. I didn't even know where I was, who I was, or anything. And yet Gary was walking around doing all the interviews with the press, and the local television station turned
Fantastic.
up, and you can see me in the background, just this crumpled mess. It was so embarrassing. Anyway, I was then due to do Ironman Qashqai 3 weeks later, because I thought, yeah, that's fine, not a problem. And then I DNF'd the run at 17 miles because my foot fell apart. The actual ball of my foot decided to come detached in this big blister of. It was pretty grim. And I thought, I need to live life here and actually have the ability to walk and work. So I pulled the plug and DNF'd, and I don't regret that one bit.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think anybody would, stop and say you shouldn't have done that. That sounds like a plausible reason.
Yeah. But it's nice to it's nice to meet someone and say, so what have you done in your life? Well, I'm a double world record holder, so I'm a double Guinness World Record holder.
Fabulous. Claim to fame, indeed.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
Cool. So you've got when is Menen?
27th of August this year.
27th of August.
Yeah.
That's Belgium, isn't it?
Sorry?
Belgium?
Yes, Belgium. Yeah. It's just on the French-Belgian border. And it's only about an hour and a half across the channel. So, yeah, it's...
and what distance is the Aquabike?
It's a 1,900-metre swim and a 56-mile bike. So it's purely middle distance. And Teresa's doing the middle distance triathlon. So we're actually racing for the first time in the same event. Yeah.
Right, cool.
That'd be pretty cool. So we'll start off in the swim together, and then we'll be out on the bike course together. So, and she's a decent bike rider as well. So I've got to watch my back.
Bit of competition then.
Yes, very much so. Actually, it's nice because yeah, there is that. We train together a lot as well because we share the same coach. He gives us very similar workouts. When I have, say, like a zone 3 workout, it then becomes her zone 3 workout because she just sits off my wheel, so she's kind of got that drafting. So it's so cool, the fact that we actually get to train together.
It's I've said this before as well. It is amazing. It's we didn't start till the boys had both gone off to university and stuff, but it's something that we do together. And our friends who are not into, most of our friends are triathletes, but our friends who aren't, they just really don't get it and can't get their head around it. But it's who we are now, it's we are that couple who do training and running and biking and swimming, and it keeps us, it's just what we do. That's who we are.
Yeah. We're exactly the same, and we've even lost contact with some friends who just didn't get it, and I struggled to get my head around that for a while, and I was like, well, what's going on there? But people just move on, and you just end up doing different things with different people. But we've met some amazing people as well with the same interests and similar interests. So
I mean, that's what happens, isn't it? You move on and you surround yourself by like-minded people, and it's usually the healthy choice, I found.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Yeah, and there's no negativity most of the time.
Absolutely. So that's a great story. Have you got anything else that you'd like to add before we move on to the quickfire questions that I always ask at the end of the?
I could talk all day about triathlon and time trialing, and I should probably do more running, to be fair. But I just do the minimum amount of running to enable me to run decent off the bike. My 5K PB is a few years old now, but I could probably just about squeeze a 20-minute 5K maybe.
Which it's no slouch.
No. But
really?
Again, slightly bigger guy, I'm never going to be running 18 minutes for a 5K. It's never going to happen. So
absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, well,
But yeah, I could.
you do what you can do. That's it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Which is absolutely spot on. You know, I know my strengths and I know what to play to. So
Yeah,
yeah, I just tend to just drop a lot of people on the bike, and then they can try and play catch up on the run. But it's
yeah.
also really, really nice when I overtake people on the run, and then when people don't overtake me on the run, that's always the nice thing. Yeah, and as much as you know, we got good mates when we race together. It's, you know, there's that old, it's the bragging rights. You know, it's the
Yeah,
bragging.
absolutely.
A local triathlon actually in Newbury, which we've nicknamed the World Champs, because a load of mates get together and we all try and start around the same time. Because we normally set off about 30-second intervals, so you try and catch people up on
Sure.
the swim, and then
Yeah.
you go past them on the bike, and then, you know, the runner will try and catch you on the run, and yeah, it's just great fun. It's a good event.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? It's if it isn't fun, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely, we don't get paid to do this.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Mm.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's been a great story. So my first quick fire question is, what's your favourite bit of kit?
Oh, I've thought about this, and everybody says the bike, right?
They do.
Everybody says the bike.
Yeah.
My favourite bit of kit is my Stride Power Pod. So I've started running with power, and it slows me down because I'm that stupid person that runs too hard all the time, even though I know heart rate and everything. But a power pod, I understand power because I've got a power meter on my bike, and I understand power, and it's changed my running. It's made me better. So I'm going to say my favourite bit of kit, my Stride Power Pod.
That's quite interesting. I was just listening to a podcast probably 2 weeks ago now, and it had he's a really well-known running coach from Australia but lives in America, and I can't remember his name.
Oh God, yes.
And he was on the Simon Ward podcast, and he was talking about the Stride and how people should really look at this thing and start running with power. It was a really interesting podcast. I think I put it in one of the episodes. I think I put it down because I usually say that this is, you know, I'll recommend a podcast. I recommended that one. Can't remember what he's called now. It's gone.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to think about. I can't. No, his name escapes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not something I've ever used, but yeah, I would be interested to see what it was all about and what it was like.
It relies on a lot of data, so you have to run a lot before it becomes useful. And also you have to make sure that you're honest with your weight, because it relies on that as well.
A bit like Zwift.
Sorry.
A bit like Zwift.
Sorry, a bit like Zwift. Absolutely, yeah. But it gives you your critical power, if you like. So you know, you. And then also when there's both of you in the household. So Teresa has a Stride pod as well, and it has this annoying knack of picking up the wrong one. So we're running, and I'm thinking, well, that's not my power, you know. So I have to run away from Teresa and picking up the pod. But
that's funny. Yeah, cool bit of kit. Yeah, never had that before, so that's really good. What resources do you use to help with your triathlon? And it could be books.
Obviously, I'm coached. That's an excellent resource. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I like reading about stuff. And Zwift. I absolutely hated Zwift with a passion because I thought it was just taking over the world, if you like, and actually it still sort of has, and you can see these really, really powerful cyclists that have become mega on Zwift, but you put them outside in the real world and they can't ride a bike around a corner. So but yeah, I use Zwift. We use it a lot in the winter and train together, and certainly over lockdown as well. We ended up training as a group, and we had Discord. So we were chats, you know, we were riding for 3 hours, you know, sometimes just chatting and riding, and then it became like a social group ride, but virtually.
I mean, it's a great piece of kit. Zwift, I love it because you can do things on there that you probably wouldn't do outside, you know. The different efforts and things that, you know, you just wouldn't. I wouldn't do it anyway personally.
I'm the same. And then
I do it on Zwift, and it's a great training tool. And I don't really get people who say, "Oh, I'd rather ride outside." Yeah, I like riding outside. Don't get me wrong, but it's like going for a run on the track and going just for a run, isn't it? Or going on the treadmill. You can gauge and you can plan your workout better on a piece of kit like that than you would if you were just going out for a run. I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is just my opinion, by the way. It's not.
No. It's an opinion I share, and also I've started using it to do some heat prep for Nice.
Right.
So I'm even on the treadmill, the fan's not on, and I'm wearing clothes rather than just a pair of bib shorts. So I'm actually trying to heat acclimatize. That way. So I'm using it a bit more.
Cool. So you mentioned podcasts there. What podcasts would you recommend?
So the Triathlon Hour is excellent. Although Jack Kelly is a bit Marmite. And when he interviewed Andrew Messick the first time, I almost stopped listening to him. But he's a pretty good interviewer, but he asks a lot of questions all at once. But I listened to him. Triathlon Mocker is hilarious.
That's funny.
There's also one that used to be called the MX Endurance Podcast. It's now called Talking Triathlon.
Okay.
That's pretty good. There's an Australian guy, Tim Ford, and the other one, I can't remember his name, but he's the sexiest voice in triathlon, apparently. And that's what they always talk about. But yeah, I'm a massive podcast fan. Helps with, I drive a bit for my work, and I've got quite a long commute in the morning, so I listen to a lot of podcasts on that one. I've just picked up Simon Ward actually on your recommendation, where you were saying it the other day. So I've just started listening to him.
Yeah, he's really good, and he's very, very. You can listen to him. He's quite. Again, he's got a good voice. So yeah, he's.
Yeah. Oh, and Pro Tri News for all the news for pro triathlon.
Right. Yeah.
That's also excellent.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that gives people a few more to listen to and look up. Great stuff. What advice would you give to anybody trying to get into triathlon? Well, not just triathlon, but multi-sport as well. Let's go that route.
Don't ever be afraid to ask questions. But also just be aware that normal human beings do multi-sport triathlon. You don't have to think, my God, I am not good enough to do this. If anybody asks me anything about multi-sport or anything to do with triathlon or duathlon or anything, even cycling, it's just like, yep, I'll talk to them for hours about everything, and it won't be you must buy this and you must buy that. It's just get on your bike and ride, just go for a run and go swimming. Because if you don't, but you also have to work out what you want from triathlon or multisport. Do you want to be competitive? Do you want to have a tick box? Do you want to have this life experience? And as soon as you work that out, then I think you can understand how to get there, basically. But never ever be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, though. You've just made about you've got to work out what you want. But you don't have to do that straight away. And I think the hardest thing is entering your first one. And then when you get there, you'll see that actually anyone can do it, because there's such a range of people doing, especially local triathlons. There's such a range of people doing it and just doing it for the fun of it. And, to actually, like you've just said, tick it off and do it. And I think once people have experienced that, then I think the penny drops and they realize that, actually, you don't have to be any particular shape, any particular age, any particular sex. Anybody can do it.
Absolutely. That's perfect. That's a perfect description of what it is. And also, one thing I would say is if you can go with somebody to your first triathlon, I went on my own. Well, actually, I went with my niece who looked after my son for me, because he was only, what was he, 8? No, 7. He was 7. So she came along, and I knew nobody else there. I didn't know what on earth I was doing, but if I could change one thing about it, I would have gone with somebody who'd done a triathlon before, because they could tell you, stop panicking, stop going back to your bike 50 times. You've done everything. Just relax. That sort of thing. It's.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah. And it's literally just someone to almost sense check you. The fact that you have done everything you could do, and just have fun and stop getting nervous and going to the toilet 50 times, that sort of thing, you know. But then saying that, we always, you know, we still get nervous and get to the toilet 50 times.
Yeah, you get nervous, and you should get nervous. It's because you've done the hard work and you care. So those nerves are good.
Absolutely.
Those nerves are good. That's what you need. And then the next part of that is, and I know you're pretty new to it, but what would you say to anyone who wants to get into age group triathlon or multi-sport?
Speak to someone. Speak to someone who's gone through the process, because while British Triathlon make it as easy as they can, it's not as easy as you think. If I wanted to go and qualify for you know, the Olympic side or the sprint side, I'd go and speak to somebody about, you know, because I would have to tactically go and qualify somewhere. You know, I would have to pick a race where I knew I could play to my strengths, and you know, I would then qualify through that way, because I think you need a result rather than a percentage of time, or I might be wrong. Again, you know,
if you qualify at a race, a qualifying race, the first 4 go through, and then you need to get as the best. Or there's like 4. There's 3 races. There's 4 slots from each race, so that's 12. There's 20 positions in total, so that leaves 8 places left to go for. So you need to be within the top 8 of the best percentages over the 3 races. So you know,
So yeah, I would say to speak to somebody who has done that already. You've just educated me there completely. I was aware of the 115 and the 120 and the 20 slots, but I didn't necessarily understand the intricacies about the top 4, and then there's still eight to go. So I'd have to tactically pick a race, I think.
Yeah, but you're right in tactically picking, because that's half of it. Knowing who's racing where, knowing, you know, especially if you're not at the pointy end where you're not necessarily going to get a Q4 or a Q3 or a Q2 or a Q1, and you are having to go for the best percentage you can get. Yes, totally. It is about knowing your competitors, knowing the races. It's very, very tactical, very tactical. There's nothing wrong with that. That's about race nous and you know, knowing your craft. So cool. Just can you go through, and I've just started introducing this over the last several guests. What does at the moment a current a current week of training look like for you?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you my average week, if you like. I'm also really, although I'm coached, I'm really bad at rest days. I hate rest days. Today was a rest day for me because I'd had a pretty hard weekend and everything, and I've been sort of chomping at the bit, going, oh my god, I've done this, I'm now bored. So on a Monday, it's normally an easy spin out on the bike, or just an easy run, maybe an hour and a half total, you know, with a bike or run. And then Tuesday we normally do a structured bike session. Now, I have an understanding with my coach that on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays there are local TTs around the area, local time trials. And if there's one that I particularly want to have a crack at, or there's a good course on or whatever, I'll just drop him a note saying, look, you've given me this training for the Tuesday, can I go and do a 10-mile time trial or a 25-mile time trial? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. But if he wants me to do a specific session and lead up to a race, I'm under strict instructions that I have to do, say, 4 times 6 minutes at 100% or 103%. So I can't just ride 20 minutes for a time trial. I've got to ride, 6 minutes and then back off for a minute and then do another 6 minutes. So there are times when he specifically tells me to do that, but I'd rather go and race a time trial than sit on Zwift. And it's still similar effort because you still need to warm up, you still need to cool down. So it becomes a 1 hour bike session then. Wednesday is now every single Wednesday without fail is strength. This is something we've been doing for about 18 months now. And I'm getting less, and I am less and less injured. I haven't had an injury. Okay, I got injured last year because I was an idiot. But for run injuries, and even shoulder injuries, and obviously leg injuries, or just bodily injuries, we rarely get them now. So that's always on a Wednesday, and then Thursday's always a bike run. So it's normally a 1 hour bike with a run off the back of it. Friday is normally swim day, with concentrating on specific efforts and specific speed. So if he wants to do hundreds is all about takeout speed. So you try and replicate that takeout speed 5 times, and then you have a cool down, and then you try and do it 10 times. So 5 times 100, have a easy swim between, and then 10 times 100, or you want to do 3 times 600. It's all a little bit different. And then Saturday is normally park run day, and then a ride afterwards, or an open water swim, because I'm terrible at open water swimming at the moment. I can swim in a pool, but I'm really bad at open water swimming. I actually had a swim lesson last Saturday, just gone, and made the changes, and instantly I'm faster in the pool. So I'm clearly doing something. I was doing something wrong. Well, I know what I was doing wrong, but I've applied that to the pool, and now I'm going to apply it to the open water as well. And then Sunday is usually long ride day.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, but it's anywhere between 10 and 15 hours a week training, normally. Sometimes less, but it's between 10 and 15 hours.
Yeah, nice.
Just difficult to fit more than that in. I mean, I'd love to retire right now and just train every day.
Yeah,
but I can't afford it.
That's it. As we said earlier, we do this for fun.
Yeah, we do.
We're not making a living out of it. So,
no.
Yeah.
But in time trials, you can earn a bit of money if you enter opens. So I haven't earned anything this year because I haven't entered many opens. But last year I earned £50 for riding my bike.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's cool. And finally, what are your short-term goal obviously is at Menen, and good luck with that. Hope it goes well and you enjoy the whole experience of age group, and you love wearing your suit, and I'll be looking out for your results. Wait. Yeah, you're going to absolutely love it. So what's your longer-term goal?
So obviously I've got Nice 2 weeks after Menen. But that is I'm not going for a place. I am going for the experience. Yeah. It doesn't play to my strengths, but that's kind of, I'm going because it's the world champs, and it's going to be amazing. But long term, I'd like to stay competitive in the 50 to 54, and then looking forward to 55 to 59. Those dudes are still fast, but then even going forward to the 60 to 64, 65, 69. I can't see us stopping anytime soon, because we enjoy it so much. But long term, I think we'd like to continue to go down the age group route, and even try and get a bit faster at running, and try and qualify for sprint and an Olympic triathlon.
Yeah, and I just like to point out, as you're getting older, it's not about getting faster. It's about not getting slower.
yeah. That's a perfect description of that as well. Yeah.
That's coming from experience. No, well, good luck with all that. And I think as a couple, and knowing, I'm in the same environment as a couple, it's what we do. It's our lifestyle. It's keeping us healthy. It's keeping us fit. I've just done a podcast which is coming out on Wednesday this week with a guy who's 75, and he was just so inspirational, so that's and seeing these guys who are like in the 70s and their 80s and they're still doing it, that's who you want to be when you get out. That's who I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah, I'm the same. We're the same. When we go to the medal ceremonies at Ironmans and even 70.3s, when the ladies and the guys stand up, the whole place just erupts into this round of applause, because it's utter respect. These it's incredible, and they're still moving, and I'm just like, I want to do that. I want that to be me.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, cool. Right, well, I'm not going to take any more of your time up. Thank you ever so much for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. And yeah, I'll just say good luck with everything that you've got going
Thanks,
on.
mate. I really appreciate that, and yeah, thanks for having me or let me talk to you. And I'll pass on your details to Teresa then.
That would be fabulous, yeah. And if you could just, bandy about the age group podcast in your social media. And
Yeah.
I think I've been a bit laxed on asking people who've been on the podcast to do that, actually, to try and build up some momentum. Because there's thousands of us only in this country. Worldwide, there's absolutely loads of us, but it's trying to hit those people and trying to get them interested in listening. And not everybody listens to podcasts. I realize that. So if you can just spread the word of the podcast, what it's about. And
totally. Yeah. And I think sometimes we're a bit reluctant to talk about ourselves because it sounds big-headed, but it's not. It's just being proud of your achievements. It's being proud of who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
So I will certainly do that.
Yeah, I don't find it people are big-headed. I find it inspiring, and I think anybody who looks at it from the other, think you're big-headed, they don't get it. They don't get it. So yeah, don't ever stop talking about your achievements and what you're doing, because people might think you're big-headed, but they don't get it. But you are inspiring people. You know what I mean? So just keep doing it. Keep doing what you're doing, the pair of you. And please do send the details over and tell her to drop me an email, and we'll get her on.
I'll do that.
That'd be fab.
I will do that.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, mate. Speak to you soon.
Have a good rest of the evening. Nice to speak to you. Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Well, really enjoyed that chat with Andy. Such a nice bloke. A few laughs there, made me giggle. And yeah, looking forward to having his other half on, Teresa, at some point. Listen to her side of the story. But yeah, it's always great when your partner's racing as well. Just means a lot more. Something you can do together. And it was nice that she'd inspired him into having a go for the Aquabike. So, and good luck with that, Andy. Hope it all goes well. And yeah, some really nice, interesting points there from the chat. Especially the part for me that stood out was when he had the epiphany moment and he got his act together after drinking a lot and smoking a lot and realising that actually he needed to change his ways so he could see his son grow up, which I think happens to quite a lot of people, really. So yeah, that was quite interesting. And as we've said previously, having your favourite part of the sport, whether it be the run or the bike or the swim, and playing to your strengths, it's always the case, I think, that people can do that and actually surprise themselves and qualify for age group. So Andy was no exception there, and I just hope he goes on from strength to strength and enjoys it. So yeah, really enjoyed that. Hope you do too. If you did, then please leave us a message, drop us an email, rate the podcast on Apple Pod, or you can leave comments now on Spotify and rate it on there as well. That would be really appreciated. And that's about it for this episode. So thank you once again for taking your time out to listen. And like I said, if you would like to come on the podcast as a guest, please drop us an email at agegroupmultisportpodcast.gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram and DM us a message on there at amp_1967. We're also on Facebook at ampgb, and we're also on Twitter at Age Group Multisport Podcast. So that's it for now. Until the next episode, don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.